My name is Caitlin. I'm 42 years old, and from the outside, my life looks quiet, even ordinary. I live in a peaceful neighborhood just outside Minneapolis with my husband, Brandon. To everyone else, I appear to be nothing more than a full-time homemaker, a woman who cooks, cleans, smiles politely, and keeps the household running while her husband takes care of things. What very few people realize is that behind that harmless, domestic image, I run a medical distribution company that generates millions in yearly revenue. I oversee contracts, negotiations, national accounts, and international vendors. My personal income is more than $145,000 a year. But Brandon has never truly known who I am, and for a long time, I allowed that. We first met when I had just turned 30. It was at a friend's gathering, one of those lazy weekend evenings filled with laughter, music, and the comfort of familiar faces. Brandon seemed warm, attentive, effortlessly charming. He noticed details about me no one else bothered to observe, the way I held my coffee mug with my left hand, the way my eyes softened whenever someone mentioned an old song I loved. Back then, I thought that kind of attentiveness meant safety. I thought it meant love. We dated for almost a year before getting married. And in the beginning, I truly believed I had chosen well. He made me feel like I could finally rest, like I didn't always have to be the strong one. But illusions don't shatter all at once. They erode slowly, piece by piece, until one day you realize there is nothing left behind them. As the years passed, Brandon's real personality surfaced. He stopped looking for opportunities. He stopped growing. He stopped trying. He complained constantly about work, about his coworkers, about how life was unfair, yet he refused every reasonable chance to improve his situation. When an opening became available in my company's administrative department, a professional role with great pay, stability, and a chance for him to build a career, I personally asked HR to reserve the position for him. I thought he would appreciate it. I thought he would see it as support, not charity. Instead, he frowned and asked coldly, "So now you think I'm incompetent?" "I need my wife to hand me a job." His pride cut deeper than his words. From that moment forward, I stopped suggesting solutions. Instead, I tried to carry everything on my own. Every month, I transferred $1,400 into his account as spending money. It disappeared in less than 2 weeks: sneakers, online games, pointless purchases, and then he would complain about grocery costs, gas, bills, and household expenses, as if he wasn't burning through money he didn't earn. The money itself didn't hurt me. What hurt was his distance. He never asked if I was tired after long flights. Never noticed when I worked late into the night responding to emails. In his mind, he was holding our life together, while I was just the woman at home. The day things shifted permanently was the day my mother came over to help me with housework while I was in back-to-back meetings. When Brandon walked in and saw her folding laundry, he sighed sharply and muttered, "Another stranger in the house? I need peace in my own space." My mother froze. I stood up and said, quietly but firmly, "She's not a stranger. She's my mother. She's here to help, and she deserves respect." He shrugged. "That's how you see it." "I don't." That was the first crack in the foundation. After that, our home stopped feeling like a home at all. We shared meals, watched TV together, moved through our routines like two people acting out roles, but nothing felt real anymore. Brandon became irritable over everything: a towel folded wrong, a remote misplaced, a shirt not ironed to his liking. I felt less like a partner, and more like an employee who could never meet expectations. One evening, I came home exhausted from a tense negotiation meeting. Before I could even take off my shoes, he held up a wrinkled shirt and snapped, "Can you do anything properly? You didn't even iron this." I stared at him, quietly. I was a woman responsible for multi-million-dollar contracts, yet inside my own house, I was treated like I had no value at all. I stopped arguing. Every conversation turned into accusations and blame. My body was capable, but my spirit was wearing thin. When I caught the flu and could barely get out of bed, he stood in the doorway and said flatly, "Get better soon. I don't have time to look after you." That sentence chilled me more than the fever. The loneliness didn't arrive suddenly, it settled into the house slowly, quietly, until every room felt empty. I started asking myself questions I had avoided for years. Why was I staying? Why was I shrinking? Why was I tolerating a life that was draining me? But I kept my silence. Until the day my body finally gave out. I collapsed at work. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed at Mayo Clinic. The doctor explained that I had fainted from exhaustion, but further testing revealed something far more serious. A tumor. Early stage. Aggressive. Immediate treatment required. I wasn't afraid of the illness. I was afraid of going through it alone. I messaged Brandon. I called him. No response. No concern. No visit. So I began treatment without him. Days blurred together, medication, tests, silence. My hair thinned. My strength faded. I barely recognized the woman staring back at me in the mirror, a woman who had carried everyone but herself. 2 weeks later, Brandon finally walked into the hospital room. Not with flowers. Not with support. He placed a folder on the table and said calmly, "I've filed for divorce. The house and car will be mine. Considering your condition, it's practical." He didn't come to stay. He came to secure assets. I didn't cry. I simply said, "Take whatever you want." He left, satisfied, certain that he had won. But he had made one critical mistake. He believed the illusion he created about me. He thought I was powerless, dependent, small. He never once imagined I was the one holding everything together. When he walked away, a strange clarity washed over me. The truth wasn't painful anymore. It was liberating. I called Eric, my CFO, the one person who truly understood my role in the company. I explained everything, my illness, the divorce, Brandon's real character. And then, we made decisions. Strong ones. Quiet ones. Strategic ones. 3 days later, the contract between my company and Brandon's employer, which accounted for the majority of their revenue, was terminated. His company collapsed into panic. By afternoon, Brandon was laid off. That evening, he came home pale, shaking, his voice barely steady as he whispered, "I lost my job." I looked at him calmly. "I know. I ended the contract." He stared at me in disbelief, like he was seeing me for the first time in our entire marriage. I continued. "I'm the CEO of SilverMed, the company you bragged about winning over. The company you mocked without knowing you were mocking me." Silence filled the room, thick, heavy, undeniable. For years, I said quietly, I paid for this home. For our life. For everything. And you never once saw me because you didn't want to. He opened his mouth to speak, but there was nothing left for him to say. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. He moved out within 30 days. His last message read, "I didn't realize what I had. This time." I didn't respond. Because I had finally learned that not every truth needs to be spoken, and not every person deserves an explanation. Recovery wasn't instant. Treatment continued. Healing took time. Some days I felt strong. Other days, I felt like I was rebuilding myself from scratch. But for the first time in years, the silence in my home felt peaceful. I reconnected with my mother. I spent time with myself. I allowed stillness to exist without fear. And slowly, something changed inside me. I stopped shrinking. I stopped apologizing for being successful. I stopped dimming myself to make someone else feel bigger. I remembered who I was. A leader. A builder. A woman who had carried an empire behind closed doors while pretending to be invisible. One afternoon, months later, I walked through my office, hair growing back, posture steady, confidence returning to my bones. Employees greeted me with respect, admiration, trust. I realized then that I had spent so many years pouring strength into everyone else that I forgot to save any for myself. Not anymore. Brandon became a chapter, not a wound. A lesson, not a weight. And I finally understood something powerful. You don't lose yourself all at once. You give yourself away in pieces. Silence here. Compromise there. Until one day, there's nothing left. But you can reclaim yourself, piece by piece, the same way you lost yourself. Not with anger. Not with revenge. But with truth. And in losing him, I didn't lose anything worth keeping. I came back to myself. And this time, I'm not disappearing again.